First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We are going to have an excellent turnout. We've had a lot of people signing up because it's such a hot topic in the drone industry right now. We're very, very glad to have this opportunity. Women in Drones is glad to provide this information and to have Kenji Sugahara and Vic Moss both here joining us. We're super excited about that. I also want to say congratulations about the Drone Advisory Committee, because it's so exciting to know that we have a voice in the community. And that's one of the great things about having experts there like you, is you work it. We didn't even know if Kenji could show up today because he was working in the field, and
still is at this very moment.
That's true.
Yep, I'm on a Jeep commercial right now, so
he may have to bolt on us.
In the middle of nowhere.
So we're just really thankful that you can join us. We're thankful that everybody has signed up to learn and to hear what's going on with the new rules. What we're going to do is I'm going to be having Vic and Kenji share their screens when they want to. And if you can put any questions that you may have into the Q&A, I will monitor the Q&A and we'll kind of answer questions. Vic, would you like to go through your presentation and then answer questions at the end?
And I think that might work best. Actually, I do have a PowerPoint. Well, it's not a PowerPoint because I'm on a Mac. It's a whatever it's called on a Mac, Keynote, I think. But it is one I've designed actually for Fast Team Drone Pro training. So it has some FAST emblems on it and logos on it. This is not a FAST. This is not a FAST event though. FAA Safety Team is what FAST stands for. So just a quick, make sure all the T's are crossed, the I's and the I's are dotted. This is not a FAST event. You will not get wing credit for it if you're on the FAHsafety.gov. So that's out of the way. So we'll do that. I'll go ahead and do the PowerPoint, and then Kenji and I have an announcement. If he has to bail, if the director calls him, I just saw a Jeep drive by in the background. If the director calls him out on a shoot, he'll bail, and we'll do this just Desi and I. So that's just more proof that we actually do work for a living in the drone community. So.
Yes.
Really super happy Kenji can join us. So let's see if I can do it right again. If Kenji doesn't push any buttons this time, I think I can probably share my screen. Let's try it.
I'm going to push buttons, all the buttons that I can.
Push random buttons. Push random buttons, share. Okay, do we have my little PowerPoint thingy on there?
We have the entire PowerPoint, including the slides on the side.
Well, then let's do that.
Ooh,
now I bet you don't.
Nice.
Awesome. Okay. This is not Fast Team Drone Pro training. I did not fix that slide all of a sudden, but this is stuff we'll talk about. We'll talk about the new rules, which is ops over people and night rules. We'll talk about the recurrent training, not testing, training, a little bit about initial too, but mostly recurrent. And then we'll talk about remote ID last. And if we end up getting a lot of questions, we may just drop the remote ID part, because when I do one of these things, I like to start off people by saying, don't panic about remote ID. It's okay. It's not happening tomorrow. We literally have 32 months from tomorrow when all this stuff goes into effect. So don't worry about remote ID. Don't freak out about it. It's all going to come along. We'll get all the questions answered as they need to be answered. So nothing further ado. This is what we'll cover. The important dates. I'm not sure I grabbed all the dates right as I was fixing this today, simply because now that we actually have a date of publication, which is tomorrow, some of those dates will actually have real dates with them. But this is what we'll cover tonight. Important dates: recurrent training, night ops without waiver. That's the important part. OOP, so ops over people and traffic without a waiver. Remote ID, the timeline, and just there's a few little other rules that have taken into effect, or will be going into effect. Sorry. Then we'll have a Q&A, and I'll probably skip through the RID just to let you all know. Date of publication is tomorrow. This came out Monday, and there goes Kenji. I wonder if he's leaving. Anyway, this came out Monday that they were going to publish this on Friday, the 15th of whatever month this is, January. So 60 days, there's a couple things, either 60 days, 45 days, 120 days, that kind of stuff. The new rules go into effect. This is not remote ID. This is the new rules on March 16th. That is 60 days from Friday. So we got to remember those days, because a lot of people are getting confused between publication date and effective date. Okay, so we got that. Let's talk about recurrent training first. One of the things a lot of people really like about the new rules, including myself, and if you're some of the schools aren't real happy about it, but that's okay. Recurrent testing is going away. You will no longer have to go schedule your test, go give them $165, hope you pass it so you don't have to give them another $165 14 days later. It's all going to be online training. That training, the recurrent training, will go into effect March 1st. That's 45 days from tomorrow. March 1st actually is when you can use your recurrent. There's a little bit of confusion in that at first. March 1st, you're good. So unless your 107 expires between now and January 31st, you are golden. So if you're one of those few that are expire in the next, become non-current in the next 2 weeks, you're golden. So next month, it expires the first day of the month following your 24 calendar months. So anytime in December, where am I going? Anytime in February, I apologize. When you become non-current, it would be then March 1st. March 1st, 12:01 a.m. Eastern time, you will be able to take the training. And it is training, not testing. So, and then the other best part about that, it's free. No more money.
Vic?
No more money. Yes.
You confirm that's 12:01 Eastern Standard Time?
I'm guessing. But
Because I'm
everything
going
is
to take
Eastern.
it at 9 p.m. Pacific
You
Standard
could.
Time.
You could. It's, the website's out of DC. So, have I confirmed it? No, but I think that's a pretty darn good educated guess. I'm not staying up to take it. Sorry. I'm a night owl. I'm not a night owl. I'm going to bed probably about 10 o'clock that night. So, which actually would be 12:01 a.m., wouldn't it? Okay. Food for thought. So yes, that is supposed to be, and this I confirmed with a conversation with Kevin Monday, I believe it was. There's a little bit of confusion around that you would have to wait until the 60-day mark to be current. That is not true. It is March 1st. However, the ops over people and night training, even if you take your recurrent, you still can't do that until March 16th. So there's that 2-week window, that 15-day window, where even if you're current, you can't take advantage of the new rules. So the new recurrent, as well as the new initial, which will also come out on the 1st, will have ops over people and night training. So there was no more waivers, like we mentioned, for night ops, and no more waivers for operations over people. But let's put a big old huge asterisk next to that, and we'll talk about the specifics with that. That does not mean on March 16th, you can go fly over people all over the place at night. That is not what that means. So make sure you don't do that. That's a good way to get in trouble. All right, night ops. Let's talk about that a little bit. No more 10729 waivers. So I know I actually got I got a text from, or a Facebook message from somebody today that they just got their 10729 waiver today. So yay, you get a little bit of a reprieve. You will have 120 days from tomorrow, which is 60 days from the effective date, to still use that waiver. You don't have to take recurrent. All 10729 waivers will expire on January, February, March, April, May 15th. So no more waiver usage, but we won't need it because of the recurrent. And the recurrent is, like I said, free. And you'll have those 60 days to take it if you want to keep your 10729 night flight available. Again, it's not the waiver. We actually are going to be allowed to fly at night under 10729 rules. You will require a 3 statute mile strobe. I love the Firehouse. I think they're actually called the strobes, are they? Anyway, we'll look into that. We'll get that stuff to Desi, and she'll share that out. Loom Cube makes one. There's a couple others that make one, but I really like the Firehouse, the newer Firehouse ones. The retraining will be required. We're not going to have a VO. That surprised me. Every single waiver I saw or worked on, and I worked on a lot of 2.9 waivers over the last 3 years, every single one of them required a VO. And that's not a requirement now. I'm going to wear my little Vic hat now instead of the FAA hat and say, use one anyway. I cannot imagine having a commercial operation without a VO at night. It's just crazy. So one thing I have not got a confirmation of from yet, other than I keep hearing the quote, we're working on it. A lot of us have COAs, though, so the airspace authorization COAs with our 2.9s attached, so our night waivers or daylight waivers attached. I actually have 40 something of them. And those COAs will no longer be allowed to be used at night as of now, as of the 60 days from effective days on May 15th. They're working around that because a lot of people, including myself, use them frequently. I use mine for Centennial Airport here in Denver, and I actually have a monthly project in a zero grid at DIA at night. So I really have to get that one worked out. So I'm really kind of pushing that really hard. And I know some other people in that same boat. Lance will not be night operational anytime soon. They're working on that at some point. It probably will be. I think that's the final goal. But when the grid maps, the UASFMs were designed by each ATC, it was for daylight operations. So they're going to have to go back and recalculate each and every one, most of them anyway. So Lance and 10729 operations are not usable together. They don't play well together, as my report cards in kindergarten used to say. Okay, ops over people. This is going to be a little more confusing for people, and it's going to be there's four different rules, or 4 different categories. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart here. 4 different categories for ops over people, and one of them does go into effect on the 15th or 16th, sorry, of March, which we'll get into here in just a minute. And then 107.145 is a new rule, which is operations over moving vehicle. The reason they put that in there is so they can actually waive it. So you can actually get a waiver for that. All of that stuff has not been set yet. So if you have any specific questions for that, you're going to have to wait. And it is also tied, the operations over moving vehicles is tied to the operations over people, which is 107.39, specifications and timeline. So keep that in mind as well. So let's get into it just a little bit deeper. Like I said, there are 4 categories. We'll dive into each one without getting too much into the weeds in each, because especially category 4 is which we're not really going to talk about very much. Don't worry about flying under category 4, because I very seriously doubt anybody on this call will. Let's talk about category 1, first one. That's going to be the easiest to qualify for. It's, as it says here, under 250 grams and contains, and this is the key wording, no exposed rotating parts that would lacerate human skin upon impact with a human being. Lacerate, okay, as opposed to human skin upon impact with a pig. I don't get that part. But anyway, that is the actual wording. And the key there is, if you've got a Mini, you meet the 250, absolutely 100%, but you do not meet the exposed rotating parts. In order to meet that, you'd have to put your cage on it, and you're no longer 250. So everybody's saying, yeah, I can take my Mini and I can fly over people on March 16th is dead wrong. Don't do it. I got a funny feeling the first few educational opportunities that the FAA safety team will be able to do after the March 16th will be flights over people. A lot of people do not understand that. I'm seeing a lot of incorrect answers in the forums. So make sure if you're getting your question answered on the forum, you know the person who's answering that question. I can't tell you how many times just today I had to tell people, like, no, that's not right. And one person got mad and left the group because I wouldn't let him be right. But that's life. You can't make everybody happy. So you have to, on March 6th, you can fly a drone over people if it is category 1 and you're not over an open air assembly. Now, the reason for that is all open air assembly requirements are keyed into remote ID. So a construction site or concerts, something like that, an open air assembly is basically, like it says, a group of people. So don't do that. Don't do that. Don't go out there to your Willie Nelson concert or whatever on March 17th and fly over the crowd, because you will get in major trouble. One of the nice things about Category 1 is there is no manufacturer requirements for declaration of compliance. That is the only category that is required. That is not required. So it's going to be up to the remote pilot in charge on whether or not your drone qualifies. Now, here is not, this is a possibility. This is not confirmed or even denied or anything at this point. DJI could push out in the Mini a firmware update that would kill the motors upon some accelerator or some accelerometer group of calculations. I don't know. That is something that could possibly be done. So, you know, who knows? Maybe the Mini will be able to do that before remote ID. So anyway, so that's Category 1. The timeline, like I said, it goes in right in the final rule, which is March 16th, no open air assembly flights without remote ID. And one thing I have not gotten a question answered yet, I don't think they know yet, is can you be compliant with remote ID before remote ID is actually in effect? So 32 months from tomorrow. So I think it's probably going to be a yes, because all it has to be, you have to be compliant with remote ID. That doesn't mean somebody has to be there to intercept your module broadcast. So don't quote me on that yet, but that's just a question that has not been totally answered yet. So keep that one in the back of your mind. Okay, Category 2. This one you have, and this one and 3 also, you have to possess a declaration of compliance. That means the manufacturer has to say this is in compliance. If you're the builder, then you have to prove and say this is in compliance. There are also other things in here, but we're not going to get too deep into it. Like I said, there is a kinetic transfer, foot-pounds into a solid object or stationary object or something. It's, I think, 11, Kenji, or 15? Yep. Okay, it's 11 on this one. Currently, right now, there's no drone out there unmodified that will do that. So that's kind of a non-starter at the moment. This also cannot have rotating parts. And it cannot contain safety defects. That's actually in the wording, which I think is funny, but it's true. You shouldn't fly one with safety defects anyway. And just like the other one, you cannot fly over open air assembly without remote ID. And another key thing here is this has to be labeled. Your drone has to be labeled that it's a Category 2 drone, and that has to be permanent, and it has to be, what's the wording they use? Basically, it has to be obvious. You also have to be able to you also have to maintain records and instructions for the pilot, and that has to be on the person, or at least not necessarily on the person, but on site during each flight. Timeline on that, from the effective date. So what is that? We decide March 16th. The manufacturers can start submitting their declarations of compliance. So earliest out there probably is, let's say, 9 months. Somebody goes ahead and puts out a declaration of compliance. The FAA has to make sure it's doing it. It passes everything, and then they send it back to the manufacturer, and then the manufacturer has to get it in the stores. I would guess 12 months minimum, if that's everything goes exactly how it's supposed to, before you can buy or even use a Category 2 ops over people drone. Category 3. This one has a 25-pound transference of kinetic energy. And please don't anybody ask me about what the kinetic energy formula is, because I don't know. It also has to have a declaration of compliance. Again, no rotating parts, no safety defects. You have to be labeled. And also you have to have the records and instructions. And you may not fly over open air assemblies, no matter what you're flying with a Category 3 drone, unless you're on a closed site with given notice. Now that could either be what Kenji's doing right now, where you're either, you've got either a movie set or an advertising set, and it's controlled access, obviously. And you've given everybody notice that there's a drone flying around. So in my case, that could be a construction site. I fly over construction sites a lot, so I have to be really careful with that. So that could be that. In the morning with the construction site, they always have a sub meeting, so they could be taken care of as well with the notice. You can't fly over any person that's not part of the operation unless they're under shelter or in a stationary vehicle. So this actually is the only category that does not have a remote ID requirement, because it is so restricted in where you can fly. So There you go on that. Category 3 will be the odds are will be like the Inspire 2s or 3s if they're out by then, or the larger birds like that. It's not going to be the smaller birds. Let's see here. The timeline is basically the same as Category 2. So with luck, if everything goes the way it's supposed to, we'll have Category 3 drones on the market in 12 months. Now, again, that's assuming that we can fly under remote ID rules, even if the actual final rule is not quite it does not go into account yet with the remote ID, and that's 32 months from tomorrow. So I will have all that information one of these days, and we'll make darn sure we get it out to people. Okay, Category 4 is, like I said, you're not going to fly one of these. It's a Part 21 airworthiness certificate. You have to have your flight manual, incredibly detailed records. That's probably what, 3 or 4 pages of instructions on that in the final rule. And all records have to be accessible by not only the FAA, but the NTSB. Odds are if you're flying under Category 4, you're going to have a team of people working on that already anyway, including lawyers. So don't worry too much about getting your drones and your operations Category 4 compliant, because probably most of you won't. Some of you might, but most of you won't. Timeline on this actually is a little shorter than Category 2 and 3. You can start 6 months instead of 9. My guess here is that there are so many people already working in Category 4 timeline or Category 4 drones, delivery drones, that kind of stuff, that a lot of this stuff is already done. And also those are the big monies involved. So they probably had a little bit of a hand in pumping their effect or their submission date up a couple, 3 months rather than the other ones. Okay. Ops over moving vehicles. Now this one scares me only in that this is probably the one that is misquoted the most or misinterpreted the most in the forums right now. Operations over people are tied to remote or are tied to the remote ID. Are tied to the ops over people, ops over moving vehicle. I'm sorry, let's try this again. Start over. Okay, page 17. Ops over moving vehicle are tied to operations over people. You can't go willy-nilly and fly over vehicles on March 17th. It's just not, just don't do it. All categories 1 and 3, either if you're going to fly over it, you have to meet those requirements of operations over people, and either remain on a closed set with notifications or not maintain sustained flights over vehicles. Basically, that means you can transition over a road. You don't want to fly 25 feet off the highway here going through downtown Denver on I-25 above the cars and fly with the cars. That's a really good way to get in trouble. Don't do it. Don't do it anyway, but just don't do it. And then Category 4 will have to, as far as ops over people, that will be in accordance to the flight manual. So again, operations under Category 4, whether ops over people or ops over moving vehicles, are not a deal at all. Timeline. So it's just basically the same timeline as whatever category falls under with operations over people, with the operations over moving vehicles. Let's skip remote ID, right? Or let's tell you what, let's hold off here. Let's stop sharing and get some questions answered.
And we do have some questions in there.
Okay. Did I hit stop? I hit stop sharing. That's all I can see.
And you did. And
all I can see is my screen. Oh, duh, dummy.
Okay, so I see all three of us, but we do have some questions that have popped up because of COVID. For those who have not taken the recurrent exam, can they do the new one online testing?
On March 1st.
March 1st, okay.
Yep, anybody and or everybody can take the recurrent 107 testing. The initial 107 testing, recurrent training. See, I haven't broken myself of that yet. Recurrent training, but the initial testing is still going to be done at PSI, and you're still going to have to go in because you have to prove who you are. You've got to do that whole thing. So that won't change, other than the fact that it will have questions about operations over people and questions about night ops.
Okay, and
and
one of the questions.
Go ahead, Kenji.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the quick things that is true is that if you stop becoming current In the meantime, it just means you can't fly, but you can still take that recurrent in March and then become current again. You don't have to take your initial again or anything like that.
Yeah, initial is a one-time deal.
Yep. So it's just becoming current when you take that not exam, the training.
Training, right. I predict that a whole bunch of people who decided it wasn't worth spending $150 and taking the recurrent testing are going to go online and take the recurrent training. And we're going to have a whole bunch more 107 currents again. Just my thoughts.
Those make sense.
Yep.
So along the lines of
and
that,
one more.
Wait, Kenji.
So along the line.
One more thing.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. One more thing I want to mention, since we were just talking about operations over people, is if you don't sit in any of those specific categories, remember you can still apply for a waiver. Through
that's
the
all
FAA.
without waivers. Sorry.
Yeah. So that is another option. You don't have to wait for sort of the MOCs and GOCs. You can make that argument to the FAA that you can conduct operations safely, and you just have to go through that waiver process.
I'm going to show you a drone that you can actually use on March. I'm getting my months are all messed up. On March 17th is this little guy right here. This is 190 grams. It's got protected propellers, so it's got that on there, and it's got the Naked 6 on it, GoPro 6. This is 190 grams. You can fly this over people and over traffic, moving traffic, transitionally on March 16th. And I'm going to.
And it's going to be the big hot seller. So a couple questions. I want to back up to that 107. We're always focusing on, oh yeah, we get to put into the night ops, but nobody has said anything about weather. So when we take that recurrent test, I'm sorry, it's not a test.
You're right. See, we do it all the time still.
Yes. Is weather still going to be a part of it, or are they going to be putting, I know it's a random question, but.
It is the recurrent
training.
The recurrent training, thank you. The recurrent training question pool is going to be identical to the initial pool. So you're going to have all those same questions. I'm kind of hoping that they get rid of some of the questions that we really don't need. But yeah, it's going to be the same question pool. So there's not going to be that, no load ops or no airport ops, no load, no weather on the recurrent. That is coming back. All that stuff's coming back, but it's training, not testing. So you'll train through it. You'll do some stuff that shows you understood the training. You'll print out your cert, call it happy, carry it with you, carry a PDF in your phone, whatever. So.
Okay. Alrighty, couple more questions.
Sure.
If a pilot already has their recurrent certification, can they do the night ops? I think you touched a little bit about this.
There's no separate night ops. So you're just going to take the recurrent training all over again, but it's free. So do it. I mean, you could take you could take your current, you have to be recurrent, your currency now. If you, like I said, if you're becoming non-current this month, so take it now and then take it again, take the training. If you want to spend $165 to fly for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And if you're a corporate pilot, you do.
And I think that might have also kind of answered Tawny's question as well. Taking the recurrent training between 3/1/21 and 3/15/21 will include the requirements for flying the .29 and .39.
Not the requirements, the questions, the training of. You got to wait till the 16th to actually take advantage of night ops and OOP.
Okay, so
and only category 1 on the 16th.
Okay, I think that kind of encompassed that one. Do you think there will end up being different grids for day and night?
Oh, I hope not. Can you imagine what that would look like? We'd have to totally rewrite the UAS FMs. Skyward's going to have to totally rewrite their whole system. I cannot imagine the brain damage that would require. Is it possible? Yeah, maybe. I would say if anything, no, I'm not going to go there. I would just say I would say, is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? Incredibly no.
Okay.
No
Joe,
inside information there.
Okay. Joe had asked a couple questions through email earlier, but he also popped up again right now. One of the questions he had asked earlier was, do we have a idea of when the test material or the preparation material will be available.
12:01 a.m. on March 1st. And Messina I just saw Messina pick something up. And he's right. I'm sorry, David, who is our board member. Thank you. And we have another announcement about that today, by the way. The grid maps are going to be, he said halved. I think that means quartered. I think they're going to be cut in half each way. So instead of one big square of like 100, there might be a square of 50, then 200s and a 200. I don't know, but it's going to be a lot more accurate. We have some grids here in Denver. Like we have 2 0 grids random out of Kappa because we have hospitals there.
Yep.
There'll be 30 seconds instead of a minute. Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
I don't know why those two are on here. They know everything, so so they can correct us.
Keep us on check.
Yeah, thanks, guys. We really honestly appreciate that.
Under the current Part 107 rule, the drone operator did not need to have a Part 107 certificate as long as the RPIC did and could immediately take over the controls. Does the new rule require the operator to have a Part 107 certificate?
No, person manipulated controls is not changed. So as long as that, I mean, you can't be across the set as the 107. You have to be right there, ready to grab them, and you can't be a VO either. You have to be the PIC. So absolutely, you can do that. Absolutely, 100%. That's not changing.
Got it. Few more questions popping in here.
Sure.
After the online training and quizzing complete with the FAA, what are the night training drills you suggest to get experience flying at night?
Ooh, good question. I would say the ones we've always used. Basically, go out at night in the open field, just like when you're starting. Get yourself acclimated to the night vision. Use strobes, obviously. If you need to use lights, use red lights. And then the most important part is don't just go there after it gets dark. You want to scout the area. Make sure that you'll figure out your MOCA, your minimum optical clearance altitude. Figure out where all the wires are. Those disappear at night, by the way. They actually just go away. So yeah, you have to be careful with those. And just don't go real high. Don't go real far. Depth perception, good idea, Probin. Yeah, depth perception. I'm glad these guys are on here. These are awesome.
The visual illusions are just
crazy.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And I have a few that I'll get in the daytime. It's like,
and those visual illusions, the screwed up night vision is part of the test. So you will learn, not the test, well, the test too, but the training, the recurrent training, you will learn those. So that's still the stuff, that aspect of the 10729 waiver application will be part of the training and part of the initial test.
All right. Got another one if we want to keep on going here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Like I said, we don't have to get into remote ID if people want to do this because the new rules are coming now. Remote ID, we got lots of time to talk about.
Okay. So the press release indicated that the only changes to the Part 107 exam would be related to night operations. Does that mean the exam will not be updated and include the flight over people? No,
it will. It will. I actually asked Kevin that. Okay. Those questions will be part of it because you're going to take your currency or your initial. It's good for 2 years. That stuff's going to happen in 2 years. So yeah, you have to know that information. They're not going to have a separate module to take for ops over people once that becomes a thing.
Okay. Okay. And one on the categories. Several of the categories indicate not exposed rotating parts. Do the gauges need to be sphere around the propellers, or will the bumper guards that extend past the tips of the prop be sufficient?
For category 2, 3, and 4, it'll be a certificate of compliance. So that will be, if the manufacturer says we only need the bumpers and that's compliant, then they're going to be fine if that's accepted. For category 1, it is 100% on remote pilot. So you better be right. And let me put it this way: I would not use bumpers. I'm either going to have an automatic kill switch. The stick configuration that kills motors is not going to cut it. Because the last thing you're going to think about in an oh crap moment when your drone's plummeting towards somebody is killing the motors. It's going to have to be some kind of auto kill, accelerometer auto kill, or cages. Full cages is what I'm going to use. And that's, I would not put bumpers on it and call it happy as a category 1.
Okay. Okay. I'm looking forward to that drone that you put out there.
Oh, that's easy. That's the Beta FPV 95X, and it's got the naked GoPro 6 on it. So it's a decased GoPro 6, which is fun. Buy 2 because you'll screw the first one up. Okay. And I got two more over here. One of those doesn't work.
Sounds like the beginning of my career.
A $200 paperweight, which is very light, so there's not very much paper to hold it down.
So a couple more questions here.
Go for it.
I'm not due to do my recurrent 107 until spring 2022.
Rock and roll.
Do I need to start the online recurrent training in March?
If you want to fly over people or at night, yes.
At night. Yes. Okay.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. If you don't see yourself flying at night over people before your recurrent is no more current, no longer current. It's late for me. It's like 7 o'clock. It's almost my bedtime. Then you don't need to take a recurrent. And I would strongly, you've got 213,000 remote pilots, I think. Guess how many people are going to go on the website March 1st? The FAA is fully expecting the FAA safety.gov. We should mention that about 20 times. They are fully expecting the website to crash.
There you go.
If you don't need it, don't do it right away, which is one of the reasons why if you've got your 2.9 waiver or you're using somebody else's 2.9 waiver, no comment, then it's hold off on it. You're not going to need it. So that's one of the reasons they gave the 2.9 waiver people that extra 60 days that everybody else doesn't have.
Okay. For night operations,
definitely wait a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Or 12:01 a.m. March 1st, Eastern time. Actually, I'm going to stay up and I'm going to get 10:01 Denver time. I'm going to try, see what happens.
If I had to stay up, I wouldn't pass a test. I'd be too sleepy.
Training.
Yeah.
Oh, training. Yeah.
But
no, instead of milk, drink coffee.
For the training, I would definitely recommend it. I like Vic says, just wait maybe 2 or 3 weeks. It's like the In-N-Out burger when it first opens. It's always way too crowded. But when you get a chance, it's always good to have that option. Just coming from an operator's point of view, if you need it, you can use it. But if you don't, you don't. Right. And it's free.
Right. And it's no longer a waiver thing, so it's not the FAA say, bring me a rock, and you bring them a rock, say, no, bring me a different rock. That's not the right rock. And that's the FAA told me that, by the way. So I'm not talking out of school here. Take it. If the website's not working when you go, try it again later. Try it again the next day. Try it again the next week. But do take it, even if you're not due. And that also starts your 24-month calendar over again. The minute you take your recurrent, I'm on my second recurrent already. And so I'm going to do it. I'm going to take it. One, I'm going to have to because I have night flights. But
okay, can you clarify that a little bit more for me? So I just took my third, or my
second recurrent.
Yes, my second.
Okay, I say third recurrent. Wow, you're worse than I am. I took them early both times so I could teach them.
My second recurrent.
Right.
And so does that reset my clock?
Once you take recurrent, yep, your 24-month clock starts all over again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, but you know what? If you then, let's say a year down the road, not necessarily you, because you know what you're doing, somebody who's not quite as experienced as the three of us are, wants to go ahead and take, they take the recurrent March 2nd because they waited a day. And then in October, all of a sudden they got their first night op. It's not going to hurt to go back and take that training again, because like I said, it's free. And if you can't remember all the stuff you're supposed to do, which if you don't do it all the time, you forget. It's like muscle memory. Then take it again. So it's not like you can't take it over and over. Please don't take it over and over again. For the heck of it, I don't know why anybody would. But if you need to again, like you've forgotten what you want to do or what you're supposed to do it.
Right. And even though it's not a test, it's a training, it's still recommended that you get hands-on training, because once you actually
never a bad idea
and fly at night, it's just a whole new element.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Even though it's just a training online.
I know a few people who do that, who have those training. I'm not going to mention any names, but I think one of them's probably on here. He's on Tuesday mornings a lot. He does the training really nicely. Reach out to a 107 who does it a lot. If you're in Denver, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. If you're in Denver, reach out to me. And if I've got a night op, you're more than welcome to hang out with us. Nothing else, you'll learn how to be a good VO, because I have an incredible VO in Todd Pearson. So, you can hang out with us. It might be a construction site, so you better have your own PPE. But yeah, personal protection equipment. Sorry.
Yeah. And I'm going to second that, because the last thing you want to do is have just taken the exam and not flown at night and show up on set.
Oh, yes,
and
please.
Not know what you're doing and actually make a mess of things. So definitely get out there, practice a number of times. It's especially important, especially if you wear contacts or something like that, because what'll happen is you'll experience the lights tend to go into star formation, and it can be very difficult to see unless you know exactly what's happening and how to react to that.
Right. I predict a lot of night crashes in April, which is why we're doing this kind of thing. Desi's a drone pro as well. And we're doing these types of things so people can understand and can learn that it's a blast. Oh, I love flying at night. It is so cool. It is so exciting, but it takes a different mindset.
Yeah. Elevate your standards. That's for sure.
Elevate your standards. Elevate your safety. Yes. And bring a VO, please.
Yes. So we do have some more questions on here. And so it looks like, if I haven't skipped one here, will the recurrent training provide a printout proof of your training from the FAA safety.gov website? Will we need to keep that document along with the certification card during flight operations, which we already need to keep that printout with us already? Or
PDF. I have, and I know Kenji has as well, I have a policy and procedure manual. My policy and procedure manual is only like 36 pages long. I can't imagine how big Kenji's is. It's probably 36 pages per operation.
One thing I would recommend, though, is to actually print it out, because what happens if your phone dies or you run out of batteries, and then you need that as proof if you're ramp checked. So if you have that, you can actually just present it there. I mean, for all the aircraft registrations that I have, I print out a copy and then put it in each of my cases. So it's always good to have.
Yeah. And it looks like Vic went and got some documents for us.
This is my policy and procedure manual. And then I've got a pocket here with other things in the back. So and it lives in my flight bag. It goes with me everywhere I go, because that's also the same bag I keep my Crystal Sky in.
Yeah. So my SOPs are now at 148 pages. So, every time you turn around, you're building on them.
Yeah.
And so they just grow.
Yep.
So it looks like we do have some more questions. And I have one. What are your thoughts on flying at night during a concert, drive-in shows, and the effect of the stage lights, streamers, and fog? Any specific protocols or suggestions for those specific events?
Talk to the venue manager and talk to your insurance agent. Not necessarily in that order. Each one of those things is so different than the next one. I would just say approach each one with safety in mind, first, second, third, fourth, and last, because it creates a lot of problems. And just don't do it. You really seriously do need to be hired for the event. Don't just show up. You're going to make, first of all, if there is a drone operator there that's hired for the event, you're going to upset somebody. And even if they're not there, you're going to upset the venue and the security and the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. And that brings up a good point. One thing that you should do is if you are flying for the event, check in with security so that they know, because occasionally there is a disconnect between production and security. I'd also recommend just giving a heads up to local law enforcement in case they get a call. When I did the Pabst concert, I specifically talked with the law enforcement that was there and said, hey, this is what's going on. This is what we're going to be doing. So if you do get a call, here's my phone number. Just give me a call and we'll be able to chat with you.
I would give the VO's phone number, though. Whenever in a situation like that, I give out Todd's phone number. And I'm going to give you a little Sparky Sorensen trick. And he shared this, so I'm not sharing any of his corporate secrets here. He's flown at the I think it's Texas National Motorway Speedway. And in order to separate his drone from others who might be in the area for security, he has lights on it in a specific pattern. So if you're flying at night over a venue, you can let people know, okay, if it's everybody's going to do this, a blue light in the middle and two red ones on each end, it's me. So just make sure they understand that way you've got specific light pattern and they can look up and see it's you and not worry about it.
That's a great tip. Great tip. I think we've already answered this one. The recurrent training, is it in person or at the center?
FAAsafety.gov. No other website. There is a person out there saying they can give it as well. That is not true.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It is only at FAAsafety.gov and it will be there on the 1st of March.
Okay. How and when do we get the FAA to okay flight over people with a Mini with the propeller cages and registration?
That would be category 2.
A category 2, all right.
Because once you put those cages on a Mini, it's no longer 250 grams.
Yes.
Unless, again, not confirmed, you can get a hold of a Japanese battery.
Oh, because it's lighter.
It's lighter.
Yep.
Yep. So if you can get a hold of a Japanese battery,
heavy.
Well, you use North American cages and Japanese batteries. And in theory, that should be under 250 grams, but that is not proven. That is one of those things making the rounds.
Okay. And I'm not sure the order that these questions came in, but there is a data set for airport towers being open, but the UAS FM doesn't have active times.
Active what?
Times. And so I think that's only a fragmented part. I don't know if that's trying to answer a different question, because that same person came in and said, no way on something. So I don't have the complete question on that. Does that, maybe Zoe, if you could put the question in there for us. Who manufactures the little 190 gram drone?
Oh, that's a Beta FPV, but there's a bunch of them.
Okay.
And that's 190 pounds with battery and the Naked 6. Or
right?
a PG language, the decased GoPro 6.
Mm-hmm.
And we have another question about the recurrent, not quite the answer that this person was looking for. So she was wondering about, she already has the recurrent certification, which is good for another 16 months. Does she have to do the recurrent training for the night ops, or can she wait until she needs to be trained at the end of the 16 months? She has a separate night training from 2 different sources. So the night ops will expire. If she wanted to continue on past that and needed to do a night op, she would need to take that training.
Non-FAA training is irrelevant, other than the fact that it's good to have. But when it comes to certification, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
You have to have the FAAsafety.gov training or a 10729 waiver to fly ops at night. You can't use, so-and-so trained me at night, so I can fly at night now. It's like, no, you can't. So-and-so trained you so you can fly safely at night. Now you have to go to the FAA and get permission.
Do you see that changing in the future to allow outside training institutes, or is it always going to be done through the FAA?
I think it's always going to be done through the FAA or PSI for the initial, because it's, then you're going to have to get certified flight instructors involved, which means you have to create that entire category. And I know some people would really like that, but we're talking a behemoth of regulation and brain damage and bureaucracy.
And it's going to cost the agency money, and
Which
I don't
means
think they want to spend money.
Cost us money.
Yeah.
It's only fair we pay for our own business needs.
Okay.
I don't want the taxpayers paying for that.
Okay. Regarding the night operations, are there any recommendations for specific strobes? I think we kind of covered it a little bit. And how would you recommend going at night?
Real quick, Probin brought up a good thing too. The Tello, I think, is also good for over people if you're flying a Tello. I've never even touched one. So the specific strobes, again, there's no such thing as FAA certified strobe. There are plenty of people out there who have tested them, including myself. I've got an area 3 miles from me that you stand on one hill in a park, and it's exactly 3.0 miles to the back of a Home Depot parking lot with a valley in between. So I've done all my testing there. And if you can test your own, as long as you can prove that you did it. And I did video while we were doing it because it was a review. But you do have to test it yourself, or you should test it yourself. The two latest Firehouse technologies definitely pass. The Lume Cube passes. I've actually tested the Lume Cube. It's definitely a 3 mile strobe without even breathing hard. The newest Firehouse, I think it's got 5 LEDs, like 5 LED crees on it. I think is at 4.5 or 5 miles. It's silly. Wow. How bright it is, but it does have to strobe. That is also new. Before I just said lights, now it does say strobe, but they all strobe anyway. So
yeah, I think Box Fury Lighting also has.
I think they do. Do they have the smaller one? Do they have a 3 mile one yet? Cool. I haven't seen it. I have to bug them.
Yeah.
You bug them for me. Actually, you're closer.
Okay.
Have them send me one. I'll test it.
Okay, I'll get on that. All right. And we usually think about cars and trucks when we hear of vehicles. Are there other rules that apply flights over trains or marine vessels?
Yes. Just be people.
Great question.
So
go ahead, Kenji. You might know more about that.
Yeah. Vehicles means any mode of transportation. So that even includes skateboards. So if somebody's walking and somebody gets on their skateboard, guess what? They're now a vehicle. So that is what they discussed in the discussion of the rule.
Alrighty.
So there won't be any different. I guess the way I answered, there wouldn't be any different rules for marine or railroad. It's all falls under the same, like Kenji was saying. Scooters, rollerblades,
bikes.
Skis. Oh no, skis. Oh, would skis be a vehicle?
Would they?
They're mode of transportation.
Yes, they are.
Cross country, downhill.
That is
boards. Scott says, "Be careful about standoff distances." As always.
Yep. Yeah.
Actually, physically, the safest place to beat them. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Remember, the FAA says over means over.
Over means
at the same
over.
time, if something goes wrong,
if you're transitioning towards somebody, actually, probably if you have a failure, the safest place to be is directly over somebody if you really want to get into the physics behind it, because very few drones fall straight down. But don't fly over them anyway.
Nope.
Yep. So anyway.
Let's see. We have a lot of questions still on.
Okay, we can still cook through these. We'll do RD another day.
What resources do you suggest to learn drone photography settings at night?
Vic.
Imagine that.
Go fly a Monday Night Football game. No.
No.
I made some really good contacts that night. Boy, you know what? That's an hour in and of itself. YouTube is your friend. There's I did a very good photography course that covers that in a different life. So if you can find that, it's worth it. It really is. And that's what people have told me. That is not what I've said. I've never seen the course. I filmed it and called it happy. So there are other people out there that do have some night courses. There will be another one coming out for me at some point as soon as I get my poop in a group.
Okay. And what date with the initial test will test will be updated with the new rules?
March 1st.
March 1st. Okay.
No, not with the new rules. March 16th. March 1st is
No,
when
the
you
test,
can take
the test will be
you can
available.
take
Yeah, the initial.
Yeah.
The initial.
And is that
Initial.
what we can expect the study material as well? What about as from a point of an educator that's trying to do the 107 material? When will we be able to have access to that?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it'll be, you'll have to teach to OOP, so you have to teach the new regulations. So there's your material right there, because you have to teach to the regulations. You have to teach people how to understand the regulations. I know Kenji and I have been on with Greg a couple of times, and he's redoing his entire, well, not his entire, he's revamping his initial and his recurrent study. So there will be additional questions, but as far as getting the information from the FAA that you need to use to update your current curriculum, it's already there. It's in the final rule. Use that, teach accordingly. Yeah, the FAA is not going to say do this, 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 and this. The FAA has already said, here are the rules. Teach them.
Okay. All right. How long?
Yep. It's like 107. It's always good to read the rule when you take your initial.
Always, if all else fails, follow the instructions.
Exactly.
How long is the recurrent training? Any idea how long? I guess
don't have that answer. I guess it depends on how quick you can train. Me, it'll probably be a pretty long time because I don't do well with that kind of training.
Is there a passing score assessment needed for the training?
You will just show that you know it. That's all I know at this point. You'll do the training. You'll take a little thing that says, yes, I learned it. Odds are if you didn't learn it, you're not going to get it. So I'm not sure exactly how that is going to be crafted. I'm really hoping that Desi, you and I and other drone pros can get early access. I don't know if we can or not. We probably won't be able to. But that's kind of what I'm hoping for, so we can help people with these very questions. But I got a funny feeling, since we're not FAA employees, we don't get to see it until 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, March 1st.
All right. Great webinar suggestions to building up your SOPs.
We did that here. I belong to an organization called Denver Drone Pilot Social Hour. I've talked about it before. We get together once a month, or we did until March this last year. And we get together, we fly, we drink beer and talk about drones in that order. So we meet at different, because Denver's got a great craft beer industry. And that's what we do. And it's a great way to do that. I think, Desi, you and I, Kenji, if you want, we got to get together and talk about them.
I think so.
I think that'd be a really good webinar, whoever thought of that. I suggested that.
Yeah, and
I'm big on
on the commercial group on Facebook, I did put some safety risk management docs on there in the file section, and you're free to use them and modify them.
That's one of my groups, so apply there, and I'll let you in. Just answer the questions correctly.
Okay, what was the group again?
It's a commercial SUAS commercial. I don't know.
Okay.
I forgot.
You're an admin. You didn't know that.
Scott, he knows everything.
Yes, Scott knows it. Scott's in there. Messina's in there. You're in there. Come on.
UAS group.
Commercial SUAS owners group. I think it's Daniel Herbert's group. I'm just one of the admins. It's not my group. There you go. Commercial SUAS remote pilots. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. And there are two, by the way. Get the one with the most members, because we kicked somebody out and they made one the same name.
Okay.
Out of spite.
Okay. I am a relatively new pilot and not yet
Welcome.
Yes. My original plan was to write the test in February. Given the new rules, are there any considerations on when I should take my initial test?
I've had a couple people ask me that, and what I'm telling everybody is go ahead and take your test and get it done, because if you're ready for it, it doesn't make sense to put it off. It's going to cost you $150, $165, wherever you take it anyway. So take it, you've got it, and then just go ahead and take the recurrent when you have a chance to do that. So take it now, because you've got all that information in your brain, and go ahead and just take the recurrent when you're ready for that. So that's what I've been telling people that have reached out to me about it. Because if you wait until you take your test, you take your initial, once the new stuff's out, then you got to learn more stuff, because that's a test, not training. So that's going to be the best bet. Take it and then take your recurrent training when you get a chance.
All right. So we added cages to a mini or home built that moves it to category 2. How do we get to certify it? Certified to use it? Is there a list of tests we have to perform to prove that meets the criteria, or is category 2 through 4 basically going to be all big manufacturers?
Okay, Mr. ASTM, this one's yours.
You're giving it to me, huh? So the FAA is going to have accepted means of compliance, and that's likely going to be based on ASTM standards, which means then you have to wait to see what the means of compliance are before you'll be able to figure out how you're going to be able to comply with that regulation with home builds.
Yeah, you don't know what to comply with yet, so you don't know how to comply to it.
Okay.
Thank you for making my answer clear and easier to understand.
What'd you say the other day? Did you I just Vic speak Vic or whatever? Vic explain. That's what you use. That's the word you use. Vic explain.
Yeah. You've explained me.
Assume night ops over people at night. The weight must include the strobe. Yes, it must.
Yes, it does.
It includes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming construction equipment does not count as vehicle, dozers, etc. Asking
yeah, it does.
Yep.
It would.
It's moving.
Well, as long as there's people in it. If it's empty, nobody cares.
Or it's not moving. Or it's not moving. If it's not moving and somebody's in it, then they're in a stationary vehicle.
All right.
Yep, that's true.
But the minute they push that lever forward, becomes ops over moving vehicles.
Okay.
Although if it's autonomous.
Ooh. So you get yourself a Komatsu or something out there that's all autonomous. Fly through it, get your tiny whoop out, go through the cab, see if you can go through the wheels on the treads, and make sure you post the video.
Remote control. Awesome. Komatsu.
We have fun here.
What do you think about opportunities for engineering companies to retrofit remote ID into older drone hardware? Would there be a market for it?
We got a lot of drones out there.
Yep.
Now, will there be a lot of drones out there in 32 months? That's the $1 million question.
Right.
Without remote ID. Of course, there's going to be a lot of drones out there in 32 months. I'm not going to be flying my Mavic 2. Well, that's not true. I love that little bird. Maybe I will be flying on Mavic 2. But, the odds are the commercial group is not going to be flying drones that are 32 months old at that point.
That would be my take on it as well.
What's David saying down there? I can only see part of his.
Yeah, it has to comply with the MOC. And then have a declaration of compliance too. So modules are the same way. Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about the broadcast that they are talking about? I know we dived a little bit in a previous conversation. It isn't the direction that we actually started to cover in this webinar, but can you maybe share a little bit about that broadcast system?
Oh boy, that's yours as well, Kenji. I just know what's supposed to be in it. I don't.
What do you mean? I mean, do you want me to compare to what was in the NPRM to what ended up being in the final rule? What technologies it uses? What the concept behind it? What would you like me to do? Just give like a brief overview. Is that what you're looking for?
If you don't mind, just a really quick, brief overview of the changes. That's one of the positive things that came out.
Oh yeah.
And so, if you could just maybe share a little bit about the positive side of that.
Well, there's no internet. Go ahead, Kenji. Sorry, go ahead.
No, gotta go ahead. Go ahead.
There's no internet transmission requirement. So that is the biggest win for all of us. the biggest loss for telecom, but a biggest win for us. Everything, it will be the module or the standard broadcast. So that's going to be the biggest win. Now, as far as the technical aspects of the broadcast, whether it's a module or whether it's standard internal, all we really know is it's probably going to be Wi-Fi. It's probably going to be Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, I mean, and the range and all the technical aspects of it aren't out yet. So Kenji probably has a little more insight.
There was a question about whether DJI Wi-Fi is one of the technologies. A lot of DJI products do use Wi-Fi, and a lot of DJI products use what's called Lightbridge, which is also on 2.4 gigahertz, which is like Wi-Fi. But that is not sort of remote ID compliant. There's some messages that need to go out in the broadcast message. For example, location of the drone, vector, altitude, and then what there's sort of some still some discomfort by a lot of us is the location of the pilot or your takeoff location depending on whether you have a standard remote ID drone or are using a module. Module is takeoff location. A standard remote ID is the sort of controller location. So that's sort of the difference there. Just to give you an idea in terms of background too, the network side at least is you're sending your information over a network, a cellular network, to a server which records your remote ID information. And that piece is no longer there. It's gone. So the biggest concern about that was Big Brother, sort of DHS receiving all that information and having a big dashboard of the sky, even if you were an 8-year-old kid flying a drone in their own backyard. So that was a big relief that we didn't have to deal with. Add on to that, for example, the cost of sort of a cellular connected device. That was a big issue too. So the transition to broadcast was really great because all that broadcast means is your drone sends out a signal in one direction. It doesn't matter if anybody's listening or not. So that's what literally broadcast is. Somebody just asked about DJI Aeroscope. DJI Aeroscope is really a specific technology that was built by DJI to detect DJI-only drones, and it could tap into that Lightbridge connection to read some of the sort of information that the drone sends out to your ground station. And that is different from remote ID.
Awesome. Thank you. In a nice little nutshell right there.
Oh, explaining.
Great job. Thank you. All right. And it looks like you just answered, I believe, the last part of the question on here was, do you think the network remote ID will be needed in the US in the near future? And so I think you just kind of covered the...
Go ahead.
I'll actually answer that.
Okay.
So the thing is, the FAA put in there into the rule discussion, they didn't say that network would never happen. And I think eventually, as technology improves, it might become part of sort of the solution for remote ID. We're not there yet. The technology wasn't there yet, and there were some tests that were done, which pretty much showed that the technology wasn't mature enough. But in the future, it might become a possibility. So that's why they didn't rule it out. There's what's called unmanned traffic management, which is sort of air traffic control for drones over a network, which is in the works, which is going to enable a lot of complex operations. For example, drone deliveries, just managing all that, all the flight plans, and sort of making sure that they don't crash into each other. That sort of technology is on the horizon. So it's something that we might expect. It might come in. It might be something that's required in controlled airspace where there's more congested airspace. But as of now, it's not there yet. So just keep in your mind, eventually it might happen, but it's not going to happen very quickly.
And it's nothing to lose sleep over.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think we have another one. Do you have time for one more? I know
I'm
we're
good.
past our time limit, so we'll take this last one and then kind of wrap it up.
If my wife comes in the door, I got to leave. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, we'll be
He's
watching.
been very understanding the last 2 weeks.
Technology in terms of aerial connectivity, reliability. Do you believe privacy issues will still block NRI even if techno is improved? I did see, there's a thank you on the other side.
Huh?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't understand that one.
Yeah, neither did I.
Somebody Vic explain that to me.
Okay, so I am going to put this one over into our chat and see if I can put it up there for everybody to read. Technology in terms of aerial connectivity, reliability. Do you believe privacy issues will still block NRI even if technology is improved?
What's NRI?
NRI?
So Kenji said technology is not there yet.
Yeah.
We're not sure what you mean by
what's interesting on the aerial connectivity reliability is there are issues with sort of the technology out there. If you think about it, even if you have full bars, you might not get a very robust or good connection to the network. If you've been paying attention, Apple actually did reveal a patent in terms of network optimization on their drones itself, so they can connect to even horrible signals. So there was that was interesting. But what you'll see is that there'll end up being a lot of mapping of signal strength and connectivity that you'll see that have been happening and will continue into the future in terms of figuring out how reliable that connection is, even in places like urban canyons, congested areas where there's a lot of LTE traffic, etc. So in that perspective, there's the mapping, and also as 5G's more, you see that rollout happen across more cities, you'll see that connectivity sort of improve. However, if you think about it, most 5G, to get the maximum throughput, it's very short range, so the coverage is not as big. The other consideration too is the direction the antennas are pointed, because if most LTE antenna are pointed sort of horizontally or toward the ground, they don't go very high. The signal drops up. You can tell, especially if you're on a plane. You're supposed to have your phone off, but it drops off significantly as you go in the air. But as far as the privacy issue is concerned, if you're talking in reference to the privacy of the pilot, it'll still be an issue because law enforcement still needs access to it. And the network was very interesting in that it was able to protect the privacy of the pilot a little bit more because it wouldn't be made public. But at the same time, it would be available for large-scale databases and data mining, and potentially used to sort of an automatic ticket. Say you flew over 400 feet for a second or so, bing, somebody could nail you for that. Or you flew into an area that just grazed into somebody's area, you could get pinged for that. So there's a lot of positives and negatives to I think the positives of broadcast outweigh the negatives, and for the network side, the negatives outweigh the positives as of now. Yeah.
And another big issue, if we did go with network, is cities could then impose landing fees or takeoff fees, and you would have your little ID, and they say, "Oh, hey, Vic just took off over there. There's $2.50 to send to him, a bill for $2.50." So that was one of the other automatic tolling. Yep, exactly.
Wow.
So that doesn't exist. Yay.
Another way my friend put it, one of my friends who was the director of aviation in Oregon, is they were concerned that it would end up with a privatization of the skies.
Mm-hmm.
In essence. Yeah. And that is truly concerned with the network side.
Well, we're very glad it didn't go that way. And that's been actually the most responses that I've had have been very positive with that side of things. So very encouraging.
I think the more people find out about it and the more they realize that, you know what, this doesn't suck as bad as the NPRM, the responses and the overall acceptance is much better than we thought it was going to be. Actually, when all three of us read it that Sunday before, because you guys were part of my team, but it was, the more we get into it, the more we realize what's going on. There are still parts that need to be worked on. As Kenji said in the article he wrote, the title is "It's a Good Start." It really is, but there are little tweaks that we need to do here and there that we would like to try and get the FAA to do here and there. But it's not as bad as it could have been with remote ID, and then the new rules are awesome. So I can't think of any parts of the new rules that are bad.
Yep.
Good news! Yay!
The quick thing on that, and I know Dave Messina is on this, if he still is, and one of the things that we'd like to work on, because as Vic said, there are areas for improvement. One is sort of a notify and fly capability to comply with remote ID. I think that would be a fantastic idea, because it fulfills the idea that folks know where you're flying and who you are. So law enforcement understands, like, if they get a complaint or something like that, they know who to contact, so to speak. So that's one issue. And then protected operations, those are, I see Dave's going, yes. Is protect operations, and protected operations are sort of, those are like below trees, underneath, like below levels of houses. And in terms of a safety corridors. Perspective, you think about it.
Hey, we forgot to make an announcement.
We did.
I think Desi should make it. I think Desi should make it. You want to make it, Desi?
I agree.
As the representative of Women in Drones?
Well, I haven't gotten the official form to actually read from, but I hear there is a release going to be coming out tomorrow regarding the Drone Service Providers Alliance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that Sharon is actually a board member. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's right. Ms. Sharon Rosemark is joining our board, along with David Messina.
I think that's, yes, and Dave, yes. I think that's fantastic, and congratulations. And I just love the work that you're doing. And can you share that website also? Can we put that into the chat? Because such valuable information is coming from there. And so highly recommend everybody checking it out. And congratulations to Sharon. Congratulations to all of you. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I can't thank you enough.
dspalliance.org. Nice and easy.
Okay. I'll put it in there for you.
Awesome. Yep.
Perfect. All right. Well, it looks like things are wrapping up on set here. So
did you go fly?
I did earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I stuck around on set because this
just in case.
Yeah. And also because I want to participate here.
Look at you. You're a rock star, sir.
Thank you. Amazing information. We are just so honored to have you both here today, sharing with us and sharing the information. And we just can't thank you enough.
Well, thanks for inviting us. And again, if anybody has any questions, either Desi or I, and Kenji, but Desi and I are actually tasked with helping people by the FAA. Kenji's just a really nice guy and does it anyway. Just reach out, let us know what you have. All three of us are very easy to find. And let's work on doing a policy and procedures webinar. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah,
definitely. I am so big on SOPs. Yes.
I got to show one page of mine here real quick.
All right.
This is the North Carolina. Where is it? North Carolina Department of Transportation Certificate of Completion. So I can go fly a drone in North Carolina.
Yep.
They require their own certificate of completion. I'm never going to fly a drone in North Carolina, but it's like, why not? It's fun.
Go apply. Did you do it online?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to North Carolina for that.
Okay.
I would for other things. I have friends in North Carolina, but and it's beautiful. The mountains in North Carolina. My family's all Southern, so there's no reason not to go. But I'm not going to go just for that.
Yeah. Okay, well, now you know.
Ooh, barbecue.
They have no, you know what? No, I'm sorry. Carolina barbecue is not barbecue. It's got mustard in it.
And Probe says, come on down, Vic.
Yeah, no, only if you don't put mustard in your barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Desi. Thanks, everybody.
I am definitely going to do another one with the SOPs for sure.
Yep, and we'll do a remote ID at one point too, but let's get the new rules out of the way, get those rocking and rolling. And remember, just because the new rules go into effect March 16th doesn't mean you can go out at night flying over people with your M600, okay?
Oh. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
For joining us too. It was a great turnout.
All right.
Yeah. Take it easy. Fly safe.
All right. Bye.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.